Hi there, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author and trauma survivor Irene Weinberg, here to encourage you wherever you are in your healing journey. In each episode, I chat with incredible grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums, and celebs, as well as remarkable people who have inspiring healing stories to share. If you're looking for a podcast that's both uplifting and inspiring, you've found it. Let us help you find your joy in life. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds each of you so very well. I'm speaking to you from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I could not be more delighted to have the pleasure of interviewing Evidential psychic medium Barbra Banner, who is a certified medium by the highly respected organization Helping Parents Heal. To become certified, a medium must have received comprehensive training about various aspects of spiritual and psychic phenomena, communication, and navigating complex emotional situations, which enables her to offer insights, guidance, and support grounded in a deep understanding of spiritual practices with supporting evidence that is indisputable. Barbra's journey to mediumship began with a series of unusual psychic occurrences at her home, which led her to realize that she was being called by the spirit world. Not only did she feel compelled to answer this mystical summons, Barbra later discovered that her connection to the spirit realm was a family secret that had persisted for centuries. Even though Barbra's readings often touch on a wide variety of traumatic issues that draw from her 30 years of generously volunteering on crisis hotlines and crisis response teams, her readings consistently remain uplifting and fun, with an emphasis on high vibration love, laughter, and lightness. I'm looking forward to talking with Barbra, who will be speaking with us today from Los Angeles, California, about that spiritual family secret that had persisted for centuries, the unusual occurrences at her home that offered her a mystical summons, the teachers and mentors Barbra has worked and trained with, the way her volunteer work is in sync with her mediumship, the high vibration love, laughter, and lightness she brings to her readings, and more for what is surely going to be an enlightening, insightful, and high vibe interview with Barbra. And full disclosure, I have had my own session with Barbra. It was filled with messages from deceased loved ones, wise guidance, and uplifting humor, of course. Hi, Barbra. A warm welcome to Grief and Rebirth podcast.
I'm so happy to be here, but you hear that from everybody. So
it's wonderful, though. It's really great. And I'm so glad to share you with everybody. So first of all, I'm curious too. Tell us about these unusual occurrences at your home that led you to realize, how many people get unusual occurrences that make them realize they're being called by the spirit world? And when did these things happen?
I think more people than you can imagine have gotten it, but they're not aware. Okay. So the first thing was like, I go out for commercials and I had to send in an audition tape and I wanted to look at it before I sent it. And there's orbs flying all around it. I said, what the heck? And so I thought, okay, there's been other things. I've had a clock fly off the shelf. My husband's mother's picture on the mantle flew off and broke it. Later on, I did say, why'd you throw yourself off to the floor and break yourself? She goes, I needed more attention. I said, okay. So my husband took the picture and drove around with her to get it fixed. And he said, I felt like I had my mom with me. So the thing that really cinched it was I'm in my bedroom, and the light and the fan started going on. I did not put it on. The light was flashing. I screamed, John, come in the bedroom. You won't believe what you're seeing. And he goes, no, you come in the den. I run in the den. His fan, the fan in there, and the light were flashing just like mine. The only thing that was really unusual, there was no light bulb in the one in the bedroom. I had taken it out to put in another fan. So I said, okay, spirit is calling. I am not going to just ignore it. I have to answer.
You
So
have to answer. Wow.
those were just some of the things. Yeah. So,
And then when you talked about commercials, you're an actress and you do commercials?
no. I do not consider this being an actress. If you go out to commercials and say, "Hi, buy Downy," that's not a commercial.
Oh, okay.
That's not acting. That's just,
Okay. Being
Okay.
cool. Okay. All right. So now I want to know about this family secret about your connection to the spirit realm that persisted. How did you find out about a family secret that persisted for centuries?
My mother was 103 and had all her marbles. And I had been training, most of my friends during the pandemic were, binge watching Netflix. I was training to be a psychic or just finding out what I had. I went to my mom because 100, how long does she have? And I just said, Mom, I have to tell you something. Okay. I've been talking to Dad and I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know what you do. She said, your grandmother was dragging me to fortune tellers and psychics and tea readers all the time. And she had a line out the door of people in the neighborhood who wanted to get some of her wisdom. I said, Mom, you're 103. When were you going to tell me? So I just couldn't believe it. But then things started to fall in place. And I realized I was 13 and watching Sylvia Brown I remembered my mother got me a Ouija board when I was like,
wow,
14.
That's really interesting.
And I said, what the hell is this? I don't want this. Get me something else. So yeah,
she knew.
Oh, I also, go to different channelers when I practice, and they all said the same thing. You've been doing this for centuries. You've been a medium and doing the spiritual thing forever. But nobody told me until I was in my later years. Let's just call it that.
Well, you've walked into your core. You've accepted your mission.
I did with such joy. It's just, I'm like a kid. Somebody told me, you're like a kid. You're so excited to, get in that chair and help somebody. So
yeah, and it really does make a difference. Who are some of the teachers and mentors you've worked with, and where do you continue to enhance your abilities?
I will continue to learn for the rest of my life because there's so much. It's overwhelming, and I try to just keep in my lane. I started with Suzanne Giesemann. And she's wonderful and she's so full of joy and she's so easygoing. And it was interesting on the first day that I had never even meditated before. What's meditation? So the first time we did a practice with another person in there, I said, do you know somebody named Thomas who has a white dog? And she said, yes. And I said, what? So I was shocked. And before I knew anything, I thought, oh, this is beginner's luck. This is great. So I found out it was more than beginner's luck. I was just meant to do this,
wow.
But it all fell in place.
But how long ago did you start with all of
pandemic
this?
3 years
so
ago.
It's been very short.
It's been very short. After 7 months, because everyone started, hearing about me and I was doing free readings for them. Everyone said, hang a shingle already. Okay. So I started just, putting the tentacles out. That's after about 7 months.
Oh, good for you. And I also am fascinated because I used to work on the hotline of a battered women's service. And I know that you've been generously volunteering for 30 years. You want to tell us wow, how is that in sync with your mediumship? I'll bet you that's connected somehow, right?
I was always been drawn. I don't want to just write a check. I want to pull up my sleeves and get in and really one-on-one. So when this opportunity for a women's crisis hotline came up, I said, this is for me. And I was on it for 14 years. Then I'm still at Cedars emergency room because blood doesn't bother me. And so we're dealing with a lot of grief-stricken people who are in shock and everything else. And I've been on the crisis response team for LA. And when there's a deceased body on the scene, and the police are there and the family comes, the police need to be free to investigate and do their job. So the crisis response team gets called out, a couple of people, and we just deal with the family. And on the worst day of their life, were
Right.
there to give them resources and just listen.
That's
So
amazing.
this was I was divinely guided like a little robot. I just went where I was called.
Step by step, step
Step
by
by
step,
step.
step by step. And I want to ask you also, when you were doing this before you were officially in this line of helping people, did you ever get messages from deceased loved ones or whatever when you were on those crisis hotlines?
Never,
Huh.
never. It's just like they were waiting for the pandemic. Okay. It was just for me.
The timing
okay?
wasn't
so
right
I had
yet.
time.
Mhm.
This was my time.
This
when
was
my
your
soul
time.
was ready. That's what they say.
Okay, and now I want to ask you, because you bring a lot of humor into your reading, and there you like to talk about the Mayo Clinic and other entities have reports about laughter and stress. So can you want to explain how you bring humor into your readings, which often, so the person's crying their eyes out and you're bringing humor into a reading to lift their spirits. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, I read the room. I can put a little thing in, and if they're still just, then I just lower it. But if they give a little chuckle or a little smile, then I feel like I can just be myself, because I have to tamp it down when I'm not. There's a lot of research behind laughter and how it makes you feel. The Mayo Clinic says that laughter lessens stress, depression, anxiety, and they said it is a task in grief to learn how to laugh again.
Wow.
That's what our loved ones want. They just want to know we're going to be okay. And there's nothing like love and laughter to raise your vibration, even when you are really down. I've had people cry through a session and just say, that was the most uplifting thing that I've had, and they're so happy, even though they cried because they saw that moment that made them realize I can laugh again. That's what my son wants. He wants me to be happy. When I look at the picture of him and me on a Ferris wheel, I mean, that's what they want. So as a mother, how can you not do what your child wants? So you have to do it. I also just heard that 15 minutes of laughter equals 2 hours of sleep. It's that restorative.
That's fabulous.
I didn't believe it, but it was in writing. I believe it now, because it is. And also found a research from the University of Berkeley that for widows and widowers who laugh, and when they're looking at like a picture or they're remembering a spouse, they do it with a smile, and they just feel wonderful about it. That can ward off depression and anxiety. Not 6 months, not 12 months, but up to 2 years it can last. So
it's wonderful.
It's
so wonderful. And you know what? I would like to submit that I know that they're around us. So if we're laughing and we're uplifted, it's got to be helping them on the other side also, and making them very happy as we heal and we learned to be able to laugh and have joy again. It's beneficial to them.
That's all they want from us, just to be okay and be happy, even if it's finding somebody else to love. Because if you are meant to be with this person, if that's your like soul pod and the one that had just passed, if you're meant to be with them, you will be back with them, because the intermediate person, he's there for a purpose. He's there to give you compassion and companionship and love until you are back.
Right. And your loved one on the other side wants that for you. I have never seen any jealousy at all.
Never.
On the other side. There's none of that. So I have 2 questions for you now. I know you have an interesting spirit team that has a lot to do with your humor. And then I'd also like you to explain to people how you get your messages with your clairsenses.
Okay. Well, first of all, I get everything. Well, I don't get smell, and that's probably a good thing. But I hear them, I feel them, I see them. It's subtle. It's not like I'm looking at you right now. It is subtle. And I also I've been working on trance. I've been trancing for a while. So I get messages that I usually just write down, or I'll say them, because they're usually geared toward what's going on in your life right now. They want you to know that they are there. that you might have had a bowl of corn chowder for lunch, crazy, interesting things, or show me a light switch. Like, okay, well, that's interesting because the lights were dimming all night. I didn't even know what happened. So I'm clairsentient, I'm clairaudient. I can, so I see, I hear, I feel a lot of things. I just feel it. I feel there was trauma when she was 16 that changed her life, because that's not something you want to see. Okay. And those kind of personal things, I have to be very careful, very careful. And I'm doing some channeling so I can speak for them. I mean, I don't go into some, unusual voice. It's my voice. And then they also give me movements. So I've been known to go in to do a hula dance in the middle of a reading. And
that's cool.
And I thought, okay. And then, of course, the client says, my grandmother was the #1 hula hoop champion in America when she was 17. So there's always a reason that I do something.
That's so cool.
Like, what do they do for a living? And I said, I don't know why I'm doing this, but they're making me do this, and, he was a rower on a college team. You just don't know. So,
and who's this terrific, interesting spirit team you've got?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was told that your spirit team works within your personality. So maybe you haven't noticed, but I'm pretty high energy and they are hysterical. I have people who read me and say, you have the funniest spirit team I've ever worked with. They are just hilarious. So they give me really interesting ways of seeing things. So I'll give you an example of the difference between like my team and someone else. Let's say you're doing a reading and somebody comes forward and, you might hear some drums and you'll say, oh, this person loves music. And, he's tall, he's this, he's that. But it seems like he likes, sort of old fashioned music. That's how some people can see it. I see it in Technicolor. I see a guy come running out, playing the bongos like Ricky Ricardo, jumping onto the drums, banging the drums, and then crooning a song, and
wow,
it's bigger. I think and colorful.
Wow.
And so they make it a little more fun for me and for the client. And of course, they knew exactly who it was. So that's sort of the difference.
Very refreshing. Very refreshing.
There's a cute story. I was trading readings with a medium and she said, can you get my spirit guide? I said, I don't know. I've never done that before, but I said, I'm going to go for it. So I thought, all right. So I said, I'm seeing this yellow thing, looks like SpongeBob, and he's bouncing off the walls and his eyes are going googly and he's riding a bucking bronco and he's, swishing a saber. I said, if that's your spirit guide, I've got him. She said, that's him.
Oh my goodness.
So it's crazy. I said, really? A lot of times information I get, I'm just as excited and shocked as the client.
Right. And what a validation that is, because it's not something typical that you would get.
No. And
not at all.
I've had to learn, because I get such, crazy kind of things. Just trust them. Don't second guess them. Tell the client, if you see a 2-headed moose, tell her. And she'll say, I have one of those at home. You just never know. You have to say what you see.
That's it. And it's all about the evidence that they're on the other side. They want to communicate, right? And you're their perfect vessel. So I know that you've facilitated quite a few, as you call them, crazy, amazing, and funny sessions. So I have a couple of favorites I want you to tell everybody about. Please share your story about the skeptic and the bagel scooper. Should I do one at a time, or should I give you all the ones
you ruined it? You ruined it. You said what it was.
Go ahead, tell the story. All right.
Okay.
But they don't know what they had in common. So tell us about that.
So this woman was very skeptical. This woman was very skeptical. And everything I said, and her daughter was with her, everything I said, oh, that's real general. That's too broad. No, you could have read that in the papers. I mean, I felt like I was being judged at the Olympics and I was not going to make the podium. Okay. It was really, it was not a good session. Anyway, as I ended it, I just said, I just have to tell you that your daughter's symbol to look for is a unicorn. And they look at each other like, okay, this woman is nuts. And they said, well, we don't know anything about unicorns. That's really not for us. I said, okay, just be aware. So a year later, I get a call and they say, well, I have to tell you, our world has been deluged with unicorns. We see them everywhere, every week on park benches, movies, everywhere is unicorns. So I just said, you're welcome, because she was not very nice. But what's interesting is 2 weeks later, I had to get in touch with her. I said, look, your husband came. He came the other night and he wanted me to show you some. So I said, so he's showing me a half a toasted bagel and it's scooped out. Does that mean anything to you? She goes, every Jewish person scoops their bagel out. Come on, that's not a message. That's nothing. I said, goodness. Okay, just be aware. And then a week later, I get an email. She said, went to my in-laws' place in Florida with my daughter. And my father-in-law says, I just invented a product. And I have a prototype. I'm going to show you and see if you could guess what it is. So he brings this contraption or whatever it is out. And she says, I have no idea what that is. And he said, it's a bagel scooper. Well, she fell off the floor. She told the parents my prophecy and she could not believe it. And neither could I, because, I didn't, who knows, but you just have to say it. So
you turned a skeptic into a believer.
Yeah, well, she still she hasn't booked with me again, so I don't know how. I think she's still a little skeptical, but that's
and
okay.
then you got another one. So I got a couple. Should I ask you about? There's the Secret Sister.
Okay.
And Frank Sinatra.
Okay. The Secret Sister. I had a client, and I gave him, a lot of things he could take. And at the end, I said, oh, and you have a sister, a secret sister. He said, and they can get angry at you too. I don't have a sister. That's crazy. You're way off the tracks. I said, okay, I'm just letting you know that that's what I'm seeing. A year and a half later, I get a phone call. He goes, I'm so sorry. I said, why? He said, I have a secret sister. My father just pulled out a shoebox and I have a picture. And I said, who's this girl with mom? He said, well, it's time you have a secret sister. So it can come anytime. A lot of times in a reading, what I said, you may not know about all of this right now, but give it a little time. And I get emails all the time. I just found out that this was true and that was true. I didn't even know that person. So you have to be patient because not everything is going to hit you over the head in a reading.
Right. And then there's a Frank Sinatra mask.
I have this widow who never believes that her husband's around her. And he's always around her. And she tests me every time. Anyway, I said, I have this man, I guess it's your husband, playing the piano. And he's playing a love song. She said, he didn't play the piano. I said, he's singing you a love song. I said, just wait a second. I'm going to go it from a different angle. I said, how interesting. This man's holding up a Frank Sinatra mask in front of his face. Does that mean anything? She goes, oh my God. She said, last night, I didn't have anything to watch. So I went on like Netflix and I picked a documentary on Frank Sinatra. And I was listening to all his songs. So he was with me. And she said, it is so comforting to know that even when I don't feel him or have a sign from him, that he is still with me. She said, you can't understand how that makes me feel. And it's just so, it's wonderful. This is a woman who tests me all the time. She said, okay, I'm going to tell me now, if he was with me, he will know what TV show I was watching, because he never would have watched it with me. I was binge watching it. And I looked at him and he said, Outlander. I said, Outlander. She said, yes.
Wow.
I get so excited. I said, are you sure? Really? So it's fun. They make it fun. They make it fun. That's great.
And I got one other. There's something about a boyfriend that got thrown out of a boat.
Oh, this is my favorite. Okay. At the end, I asked people if they would like to give their loved one a question. And I said, I don't want to know what it is because I don't want my crazy mind involved in the answer. So I said, okay, well, your father, who she was talking to, is in the back of a rowboat and you're in the front and you are both rowing this boat and he's there behind you to support you and to help you on your way and help guide you. I said, but there's a guy in the middle of you two. And I said, your father's just getting up. He's throwing this guy overboard and he's not going to pick him up. He said, let's go. I said, what? He says, no, he's staying there. I said to the client, I said, what the hell did you ask him? She said, do you like my new boyfriend? I said, really? Well, you got your answer. Okay.
That's great.
So that's how spirit makes it funny.
That's how they make it funny. And it also tells people that it's really true. So do you do this for every session? You have a silent question and answer guidance part of every one of your sessions?
I do try to do that. And most of the time, I'd say 95% of the time it works. Sometimes they come back with a message that has nothing to do with the question, but it's something they need to know. Like, pay the bills or, don't move from the house or things like that. So,
okay, I
do try to do it. But I do say, first of all, no yeses or nos. I don't want to be able to have anything like that. And they want a chance to show off a little for you. So, and no trick questions, nothing like, what was my nickname? We're not playing that game. Right. They're around you. They love you. They want you to know they're there and they want to give you guidance, advice, or just support. Right. So, and they just get it right away.
You know what I think mediumship does for me? It really takes away the fear of death, because we all know, like so many people think when it's over, it's over. It's not. So by communicating with other people's loved ones on the other side, that it is not over. It's just the end of your body, but you are going to go back to the other side and see them again and be with them.
It's home. They call it home. It's home. They're happy. The only thing they're worried about is you being happy. That's what they care about. And they want to be part of your life. They want you to talk to them. They want you to get to a point where you look at their picture and you just smile. Like, that was so much fun. I love this kid, just makes me smile, gives me joy, and it will happen. It will happen. And sometimes you get on and they say, I don't want to live anymore. And those are tough. By the end, I'm just hoping that they'll crack a little smile and just feel a little better. Them.
Yeah. And that they can go on. I love that a portion of what you receive from your readings is donated to women's charities. What are some of them and why are they so near and dear to you?
Well, I think women sort of got the short end of the stick, and especially now.
Yes, okay. I agree.
So I do help fund like breast cancer and domestic violence and like Planned Parenthood and other kinds of organizations that really are on the front line of helping women with their, it's the least I can do besides donating a lot of sessions to people who've never had a reading or who need a low cost one. I don't think readings should be out of this world with expensive for those who can't afford it. So I try to keep that in mind.
That's so generous and kind of you, really is, Barbara. Tell us about the different sessions you offer, your group readings, your events, and anything else you'd like Grief and Rebirth audience to know about you and your work. Let it rip, kid. Tell us everything.
Okay. Well, I did my first Helping Parents Heal because I just got certified. They put you through hell.
Really? Is that hard? Is that tough?
It is. And they have you read people that you can't see, or you just, all they'll say is yes, no, or I don't know, it actually might be a little easier than looking at them. It's 5 different people. And it was really difficult for me to get rid of my test anxiety. That was killing me. But my team just said, just get in there and forget about that stuff. So I just did a gallery reading, my first gallery reading for them, and people from all over the world will see it. It's on their YouTube channel, Helping Parents Heal, and my session for them was on the 28th of May. If you want to see a part of a reading, they're a lot of fun and they were very, very poignant as well.
Right, and you're certified.
And my website, you could book me on www.bannermedium.com.
And we will have links for everything so that people can contact you. Do you have group readings? So you have galleries, you have group readings, and do you have events also?
Not yet. I'm just I'm just starting all this, but it's I do some readings for groups. my girlfriend's bunco team was my first. So they have, it's a card game. They have a card party. So that was my first foray, and we practice a lot. I do, I'm going for the second time to the Arthur Findlay College for even more training. That place is magical. I went last year, and I always keep up on I'm always taking a class from somebody, from Suzanne to before she passed, Janet Nohavec and Chris Drew, and it's just everybody. I want to try out everybody and see Tony Stockwell.
Wow, that's great.
Everybody's
so
different,
great.
so
Yes.
you learn something different from everybody.
That's wonderful. And Barbara, do you have a message about the importance of healing, or healing through mediumship, or anything you want to talk about healing that you'd like to share with our audience?
I love to see, well, I don't love to see, but when somebody comes in and they are in the grips of despair. I mean, I have people whose child or spouse passed like weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago. When they are in that state, it is very hard to get through when they are that close to it. But I think it's important. And I do try to, I have to read the room. I have to know how they feel. I don't come in and start telling jokes, although I do have one at the very end that you might like. They need to heal. And laughter at this point is probably a really good start for them to realize they can smile again. And the messages from their loved ones are the best healing that they can get. When we get a piece of evidence that's like a gold nugget that is like so important to them. I mean, I could say bubble gum and the person could break out in tears because it's so important to them.
Means a lot. I've experienced it myself. When my husband first died, I got amazing messages, and that proof of survival is so important.
And everyone wants to know about signs. What signs are they giving me? And I tell them, whatever they'll show me, whether it's electricity or light, or they're changing channels in the car with them as they're in the passenger seat. And I tell people, wake up in the morning, look at the picture of your loved one, say, "I love you, Irene. Will you spend you'll say, "I love you, Joe. Will you spend the day with me?" And don't be surprised if a favorite song of yours comes on the radio. And if you do hear it, listen to the words, because they picked a song that you will understand.
They want to tell you something.
Even in my readings, I can have a song come on. I was reading a woman, and Mrs. Robinson came on my computer. I wasn't even using the computer. I do it on an iPad. And I looked at her. I said, "What the heck?" I said, "By the way, does Mrs. Robinson have any meaning to you? Do you have a young boyfriend or husband?" She said, "As a matter of fact, I am a Mrs. Robinson." And this is not the first time I played a song like that for me. That's my mom. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's fabulous. And why do you say that finding joy in life has to do with changing the way we look at a situation?
Yes. It's being practical. You can't bring your loved one back, no matter what. So if you cannot change the situation, you only have one choice: change the way you look at it. You know how we say this woman looks at something as the glass half full, and this one looks at it glass half empty. Look at all the things. Look at the symbols you're getting. Look at how you feel their energy sometimes. All of this is a gift from them, so that you can understand that they are around you. They are helping you. I always say things come out of my mouth that I didn't say, and they want you to hear them. So, and I said, sometimes I come up with a really good idea and I think I'm really smart for that day. And I realize, my dad told me to do that, so you don't know exactly where it's coming, but it's all for it is for the greatest good. It is for the greatest good.
And when you change the way you look at a situation, so you encourage people when things are really terrible, that if you can change your attitude,
it helps.
It helps.
It helps. And as I said, 15 minutes of laughter equals 2 hours of sleep. Okay. I tell people, you can't sleep at night because you're just feeling so decimated. I said, get up and go watch a comedy that you love and laugh a little. Just it fills the void with something that's positive, like laughter, which is like the highest vibration with love on the emotional level. So fill it with something else.
That's
Just try to
beautiful.
pivot.
Yeah,
It
that's
helps.
beautiful.
It really helps.
That's a wonderful message for everyone, Barbara, truly. And in closing, I want to thank you from my heart for being such a wonderful bridge between the earthly and the spiritual realms. You've just begun and you're going forward beautifully, and you provide such solace, forgiveness, and messages of love from beyond that validates the many ways our departed loved ones are still engaged in our lives here on earth. And in addition,
I'm the lucky one.
You're the lucky one. That's beautiful. And in
I want to
addition,
give a little I
Go
want to
ahead.
give a little I
Go
want
ahead.
to give a little joke at the end.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
So how many witches does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is into what? Simple but fabulous.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. And I just have to tell you, I want to ask you also, I love that you generously offer low-income individuals a discount. Do they apply to you through your website? How does that?
On the website, when they want to book, it gives you information to contact me first, and then we can discuss it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you from my heart for this enlightening, insightful, fun, and very high vibe interview that I'm sure is having many people smile and laugh and be uplifted today. And
Thank you.
oh, you're so welcome. And here is a loving reminder, everyone, that you can see the show notes and all Grief and Rebirth podcast episodes on ireneweinberg.com. And make sure to follow us and like us on social at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. As I like to say, to be continued. Many blessings. Thank you so much, Barbara.
Thank you for letting me do this.
Oh, my pleasure. And bye for now. To be continued.